The opioid situation in Sudbury is extremely bad right now. The number one thing would be speed. I think last year the health department handed out 1.2 million syringes. Sudbury itself in Sassy, between all our different departments, probably pulled in 300,000 off the streets. And that's not including what the city has, these large yellow bins like mailboxes around for people to deposit their used syringes in there. And that's not including those numbers. There's other places in the city that are actually collecting syringes, and that's not including their numbers.
Each and every year, we choose one community initiative that we'll support with our staff and our volunteers. In Sudbury, the organization that picks up needles is SASSY. So we approached Fred Dunham and asked him if he had ever done a risk assessment for his workers, to which he said no.
I've seen people do it the wrong way, picking up needles with their hand. And you think, oh my gosh, do you know how many times a human being wipes their face every day? And Hep C will live on a syringe for 2 weeks, and you just picked it up.
About a year ago, we got into a partnership with SASSY to help them and develop a risk register around being able to identify their hazards and controls in place to protect them and the community as well.
The risk registry identifies potential risks that the workers at SASSY will face each day when they go out and pick up needles. The risks that they face are not only in the physical act of picking up the needles, it's the locations where they go, it's the risk of disease, and there's also the risk that other people may pose to the workers at SASSY.
So Risk Register is essentially a tool to help you identify the hazards and the events that could lead to harm. From that, you can identify the current controls to manage those hazards. So whatever that may be. So predominantly the hazards associated with needle pickup is the actual needle pickup task itself. So there's different controls, and an example of a control would be actually using tongs to pick up the needle, put it into a container that's on the ground so that you have no contact with that whatsoever. You can then do an initial risk assessment where you can actually rate the likelihood of the event happening and then also the consequence of the event. Could be catastrophic, the likelihood could be rare, it could be likely, and then from that you can get a risk assessment score. You can then identify your control shortcomings, some of your improvement opportunities, and then from that put an action plan in place to actually manage the risk to a better state.
We've had a couple of informal and formal sessions through Workplace Safety North to introduce the Risk Registry tool to the rest of Northern Ontario. So if you're watching this and you're a municipality or you're an organization or even a business who's picking up needles, we encourage you to call Workplace Safety North and ask for the copy of the Risk Registry.
I do all kinds of presentations on safe disposal, and I tell everyone the same thing. If you don't feel safe, call somebody else.